Welcome to Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life with Jennifer Noel Taylor. Jennifer takes you on a quantum journey to discover how to supercharge your life working with universal healing quantum touch principles. Imagine knowing how to accelerate, revitalize, and engage in ways you've never experienced. In this hit show, we reveal powerful, simple steps to create more abundance, better health, emotional and mental vibrancy, and happier relationships. Imagine being simple and supercharged to cultivate life force energy for yourself and others. Get ready to be astounded. Now, here's your host.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor, and I'm super excited about our guest today, Aileen McKenna. She is an instructor from Canada, and she was our first instructor in Canada all the way back in June of 2004. She became an instructor. And I wanted to actually go over your story a little bit. So Aileen, thanks for joining us. It's really great to see you here. Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yeah, I wanted you to go over I would love for you to tell your story a little bit about how you got started with the energy healing and what happened at your workshop, because it's a really incredible story.
So it started a very long time ago. I was in a car accident at 10 and I started having leg pain after that, about 4 months after that. Nobody traced it back to the car accident, but I had leg pain and back pain. And this went on for years and years and years. And when I was living in Europe, I overdid it in the high mountains. I got bursitis in my hip. And I had physio, I had anti-inflammatories, and nothing seemed to help. And then I found this person who did something that would look like quantum touch. I don't know what it was, but he just did a few little manipulations on me and the pain was gone. So that was my, sort of that moment when I said, I need to find out what this is, because not everybody needs to have all this painful work done and pills to deal with stuff. So when I came back to live in Canada, I found various kinds of energy healing, but they all were very long. They took a number of years to be certified and cost a lot of money. And I somehow within me, I knew we didn't need that much training. I didn't need to know the whole anatomy. I did not need to know all of this. And I was at a Polarity Therapy Conference in Toronto in 1998, and Richard was there and he was presenting Quantum Touch. And I didn't even remember it later until I found my notes. But in 2001, I think it was, one of my massage therapist clients wanted to learn more about what I did. But I told her to go online, and she said there's a training. She said, I couldn't find anything on polarity therapy, but she said there's this thing called Quantum Touch. And Richard Gordon, who did polarity therapy, but he's doing Quantum Touch, and they're offering the workshop in Montreal this coming weekend. Wasn't Richard, it was another a practitioner, instructor. I said, I'm going. So I went, and it was exactly what I was looking for. I thought it's something that uses energy to do this healing work without hours and hours and hours of training, where you can learn it quickly and easily. But I had never quite realized how effective it was going to be. So I went to it and came back, and on Monday or Tuesday, I called Richard and said, I want to teach this. He said, well, you got to have some training. At that time, Richard had the little videos. So I had the book. I bought the book on my way to Montreal, and then I got the video. So I was teaching. At that time, we had to teach the video to 3 other people at least, and to do it 4 times, and that was the equivalent of, I guess, a live workshop. So I put that together, but it took me about 18 months before I had it all done. In the interim, I had broken my ankle. And in the last, but we had to offer it to this group 3 different times. So on the last, on the 3rd weekend of training, I've been digging in my garden the day before. And so like this hip pain I had, my pelvis was torqued and it was high on the right side and forward. And I would just have a lot of pain when this would happen, but it happened all the time. So one of the things we do in the workshop is measure the hips, and if the hips are out of alignment. So we measure it by putting our hands up on the bones at the side. And if they're out of alignment, then place your hands on the lower back and see what happens. So mine was really out of alignment. It was about 2 inches out of alignment. And the young woman who was working with me was a massage therapist. So when she saw this, she said, you know, look at this. And so I said, okay, just put your hands, you know, on my back of my pelvis. And I could feel it. Like after about 2 minutes, I said, okay, measure it again. Well, first it was about 2 inches. Then it was like less than half an inch. And I had been able to feel the shift as she was working. She says, I can't believe this. Like she says, as a massage therapist, we do see these things, but it's never corrects that quickly. So that was, you know, the big thing. Like, this is it. I said, I need to teach everybody how to do this work, because it's so easy to create change and to take pain that people have had for years. I took painkillers, you know, all those, like that was about 50 years of pain. And I took a lot of painkillers in that time. And all it did was would dull the pain. It did not resolve the issue. And here it was, you know, in just this few minutes. So that was, I mean, I was determined to do it before that, but that was my crowning moment, to have this young woman do this and feel what I felt, but also see her reaction to it and the response of the other 2 people. And somebody who taught for a long time, and I don't think he's part of the organization anymore, but he was there. He taught for, like, he was at that workshop and he taught for many years after that. He's from Montreal. So it was a sort of a crowning piece in this story of Quantum Touch in Ottawa.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for sharing your story. Just to recap, so when you were 10 years old, you had the injury, right? That
Yeah.
kind of set things into motion, really, like set things, because then you describe after your injury, then your hips would mostly be out of alignment.
Yeah, the injury actually, we were broadsided by a highway bus. And so the thing that was injured that wasn't visible, like my left knee was jammed into the back of the front seat. And what it did, although nobody saw it, was it pushed that upper part of my leg up into my hip. Of course, it wasn't visible. And about 4 months later, I started limping. And then it was because it really jammed my hip joint. So as time passed, I mean, no one could ever find anything. But I remember a polarity therapy instructor actually could see the misalignment. He could see it, but he couldn't fix it. So it was, right. And when I started to learn energy work, as I was an accountant in government, and I guess part of my training is to find the root cause of things, you know, with it and accounting. But when I, so my idea was, if I can find what happened to my body and find the way to fix it, not to dull the pain or use manipulation to get rid of it, to find a way that really resolves it. That's going to be my answer. Little did I know. And the other interesting thing, and people will recognize this, those who are also teaching or practitioners too, for the first number of years, all my clients had been in car accidents. And I realized how much we we send out the message energetically. This is what I'm dealing with. Even if I'd ever told anyone, people were picking that up. People who had pain from accidents. And something about car accidents is, even though it looks like it's in one place, the injury affects the whole body because there's an impact in a car accident. So I've seen many people with many different conditions that originated with a car accident.
Mhm. Well, yeah. So we need to go on a break in about 1 minute. But just to recap, so you had been in pain about it sounds like 40 years of
Actually,
pain,
I
right?
was in
Like,
pain for about 50 years
wow. And then you
before
went
I
to the
found
workshop.
this.
Wow. And then so you had tried pain medication and you couldn't really find the root cause really. And then you went to the workshop and you found that you had this misalignment and then it went
Yeah.
back into alignment. That's a really, I mean, that's a long time to be in pain. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go on a break and then we'll pick back up on your story. And I want to ask you more questions. I think this is really, I do get emails a lot about people who've had chronic long-term things. So I want to talk more about this.
Okay.
So anyways, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and then we'll be back with Aileen. We're going to discuss healing of long-term long-term conditions and how to work with that. So thank you, everyone, and we'll be back. Well, welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. And today we have as our guest, Aileen McKenna, and she's an instructor, our first instructor in Canada, certified back in 2004. And we've been talking about how she got started with Quantum Touch, and we've been talking about how to work with chronic conditions. And I also want to encourage anyone who'd like to call in. You can give us a call at 1-800-930-2819. We'd love to take your calls and answer your questions. And to continue, so Aileen was talking about how she got introduced to Quantum Touch. She had been in pain basically from the age of 10 to the age of 50. So it's basically 40 years of struggling with chronic pain. And I wanted to dive into this a little more because I do get a lot of questions from clients and people emailing into the office of they've been struggling with the condition for a long time and they're tried a bunch of things. Like you said, you tried a bunch of things and they hadn't really seen a result. What, in your opinion, given your experience with clients, what do you think interferes with people's healing process?
Well, I think most people don't know how to find healing. I mean, this, even though I don't consider energy healing, quantum touch to be new, but many people have never heard of it. And so the only way they know how to deal with it is to take medication. I did other things like massage and I did a lot of yoga. And all of those things help. They relieve it somewhat, but they don't resolve it. And what I was totally blown away with quantum touch was it actually corrected my lower back. I mean, it didn't stay corrected from that moment. I mean, at that moment when she worked on me, it slid back into alignment, but it would go out again when I would do heavy. I shovel snow, I dig in the garden, but it never went out as much. And I could always put it back myself. I mean, I just put my two hands on my lower back and I could feel it rotate back into alignment. I mean, that's astonishing when I think I had been like that for so many years and realized now I just have to do this and it repairs itself. So I think mostly it's because people just don't know that this exists. And when they do know it, they don't always realize that even if it doesn't necessarily get repaired in the first session. I mean, it will get better, but until your body recognizes that aligned state is its natural state, because cellular memory will keep putting it back to that crooked position until it realizes that being straight is its natural state. But each time it gets worked on, it feels a lot better. You know, and your body knows when it hits that aligned state. It's like it says, ah, at last. And so, I mean, I've worked on like that. That was my beautiful piece, because it was my body being healed after so many years of struggling with pain, trying to find a way to relieve it, being accused of sort of imagining the pain, and knowing the pain was there. And, you know, I had many children, so I had pregnancies, deliveries, and all that with this pain. And then you realize at the end, like, it's so simple to correct, you know, with the right tool, it just corrects itself, because the body knows where it needs to go. And that is the other most beautiful piece. That this is, I think, what touches me every time I work with people. The body knows what it needs. And if you just do that with it, it takes that energy of that healing and does the correction.
I think I wanted to touch on a few points that you just made. One that I think was really amazing and that I've experienced as well is you said after you got that healing session at the workshop, things went back into alignment, and then occasionally things will slip out of alignment. And now you can self-correct. So you can just put your hands on yourself and it goes back into alignment. I had a client once that I worked on that had severe sciatica for a long time. And so I did about a half an hour session on him. His sciatica actually went away, and he was really amazed by that. And he said it just evaporated. And I was amazed by that too, because you know, it'd been chronic for a long time. And then he said that he decided to, you know, recently after the sciatica went away, to go out massive paddling adventure in Kauai. And he didn't give it much time to settle, right? Now I'm out on a paddling adventure. He said the sciatica came back a little bit, but then he just imagined the session in his head. He like connected to the session and it went away again. So it's really interesting. I think once your body gets a frequency, like once your body understands what it's like to be whole, that it remembers. And so it's easier now to get things back into alignment, or to, if things move out of alignment, or if you have pain again, to self-correct, which is really amazing. Which leads me to the other point that I wanted to reiterate, that you said that the body knows how to heal itself. And that's really, if you think about it, that's quite a shift that was quite a shift in my thinking, because I was always trying to look for something like external. You know, and sometimes I still do. I'm not perfect. I look for external solutions. And I think really the bottom line is, like, given the right energy, your body will know how to heal itself of anything, really. And in my opinion, I think anything's possible. But that temptation just to try to find an external solution, I know is there for all of us. Do you have any comments? Like, can you describe some more work that you've done with your clients as far as have them having that shift in paradigm about self-healing, that it's not outside of yourself? Do you have any stories?
I think, you know, when I work with people, and just part of my protocol, I always start at their heads, because if anybody's had a concussion, which many people have had and don't know it, but it will affect their whole body. So if I start at their head and something needs to be corrected there, of course it is corrected. So then the body, like they will say, oh, you were holding my head and I felt something, you know, move in my leg or my hip or in my arm. So that's, you know, part of this process. I'm holding their head, and the energy goes where it's needed. So it goes wherever else in the body that it's required. People feel better. You know, sometimes I think, well, do they feel better just because they've spent half an hour with me or an hour with me? And so somebody's paying attention. I mean, it's one-on-one, you know, it's one-on-one, so there's nobody else around. But I started to realize that it's the vibration in that room, and they're in this vibration for this long. And so of course they feel better. And it lasts, as long as it lasts. But if they remember the session, like you're saying, and they think about what happened, they sort of recreate the results of that again. I've worked with people with many conditions, but a lot of physical ones. And, you're seeing people's legs correct, like people's legs that are not straight, sciatic pain. I remember working with someone once who had severe sciatic pain. She was a very tall woman, and she came in very stiff and straight because she had such dreadful sciatic pain. So she's on the table, and I just worked a little bit on the sciatic area, and I felt the shift. And she needed to get up for something, and she was really careful. I said, "It's okay, it's done." She said, "No." I said, just be careful, just get up." And she said, "Oh my gosh, it's done." So she went shopping for the afternoon, and the next morning she says, "Oh, Aileen, it hurts again." So we just did a couple of minutes of distant healing. And she, as far as I know, she's never had sciatic pain again. So it's so simple. I've worked with children. I remember a client's daughter who had been hurt playing soccer, and she couldn't play. 5 minutes on the table, and I'm just holding her ankle and her foot. And when she got up, she says, "Mommy, she didn't do anything." She couldn't tell. I'm just holding her foot. And that night she went out and she played the whole game. She ran both ways. Her foot was totally fine. So it's like the body remembers once it's experienced it. I don't think our bodies ever go back to revert to that inexperienced state. I think once it's found this, it says, "Wow, this is what I want."
Yeah, I have found that once the frequency shift happens, then your body does remember, and the healing does continue. So anyways, having said that, we're going to go on another quick break, and then we'll be back and we'll talk more about the healing process with Aileen. And don't forget, please feel free to call into the show. We're here to answer your questions, and we'll be back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio, Supercharging Your Life. And today we have on the show one of our instructors, long-term instructors from Canada, Aileen McKenna. And we're starting to get some questions from our listeners. And the first question we'd like to address is, how does quantum touch differ from Reiki? And I thought, Aileen, if you could address that, that would be great.
Okay, so Reiki and quantum touch are both energy healing modalities, as are many other energy healing modalities. But the difference with quantum touch is that we use our breath to modify or to sort of manage the energy intensity so that we can address each situation on its own. So if we need more intensity, we can use our breath to manage that. Yeah, and as far as I know, that is the only, I don't know Reiki. I have never done Reiki, but this is from what I understand about Reiki. And I've taught many Reiki masters quantum touch, and they're always impressed. Like often when they come into the class, they say, "Well, I already do this. I'm Reiki master, so I've learned all of this." And then when they start to see what's happening with the breath work, they are blown away. They're totally blown away with what they see happening.
Yeah, it's my feeling that quantum touch is a great combination with other modalities. So I took a Reiki level 1, I think, a long time ago. And it was like a tradition passed down through a lineage. And quantum touch, I think, teaches, it's a different set of techniques. And so I think they combine really well as other energy modalities. So one of the things that I try to bring forward is that I don't believe in competition necessarily. I believe in there's enough energy and resources for everyone. So I know that people combine quantum touch with their acupuncture practice or their healing touch practice. And I think it's a great combination. And also we do have a caller now. We have Dave on the phone. He wanted to call in with some questions. So Dave, are you there?
Bringing him on right now. Hey there, Dave.
Hi, Dave. Welcome.
Oh,
Hi. So we're here to answer your questions about quantum touch and energy. Would you like to go ahead and say your question?
stand by. I can barely hear. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes. The sound here is pretty raunchy. Sorry about that. Anyway, go slowly, please.
Okay. Can you go ahead and what's your first question? And we'll do our best to address it.
Okay. I sent you the list of questions yesterday, and hang on. I'll see if I can find them on my computer. Hang on. Oh, drat.
You know what? Let me go ahead and let me go ahead and get those questions. Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Here's okay.
I'm looking for my email that I sent to you, which is the list of questions that I had for you.
Okay. I found the email here. And the first question you had asked us is that you're unable to feel the energy in your hands. So you're learning quantum touch and you don't feel like you can feel the energy. So Aileen, have you had students that haven't been able to actually feel energy, and how have you worked with them?
Well, to be totally honest with you, when I first learned quantum touch, I couldn't feel the energy. And I had learned other healing modalities before that, and I could tell everything that was happening when I was doing my work. But I was determined I was going to teach it. So I knew if I was going to teach it, I had to learn to feel it. So it took about 6 months. But as Richard has told us, you know, if you don't feel it, you fake it till you make it. So pretend you feel it. And I was working with someone who was very sensitive to the energy. She could feel what I was doing. And so having her feedback allowed me to keep on doing my work. So just trusting that it's happening. And I feel like somehow it's like finding the dial on the radio. You know, you almost have it, but you don't have it quite on the right spot. And as soon as you hit the right spot, you feel it. And it's like, as soon as we hit that right place with the energy, we start to feel it. And it could be that your body isn't accustomed to feeling it, or you may have had, like some people have had injuries in some place in their body, so they don't feel the energy there until that part is healed. But it just takes time, and it takes time. It takes having faith in it, you know, believing that it's there and that it's working, even if you can't feel it.
I've got an absolutely terrible telephone connection. You're breaking up so badly that I can't understand what you're saying. Oh, drat.
You know what we can do? What we'll do is we'll go ahead and we can answer the rest of your questions on the air, and then I'll send you the replay. That way, because I was going to ask you a few more questions about this, but what I'll do is I'll just send you the replay, and I have your list here. So we'll just go ahead and address them, and then I'll send you a replay so you can hear the answers.
Okay, I sent you, I didn't understand what you said, but I sent you an email yesterday with the list of questions and problems that I had, and I would like a response to those. You can do it either on air or by return email. I don't know which, but this connection is unintelligible to me, unfortunately. I'm hard of hearing, and that doesn't help.
We'll go ahead and we'll just answer your questions on air. I think they're fantastic questions. So let's go ahead and go to the second question, which is you said that you've tried SPA on yourself, spontaneous postural alignment on yourself, and you haven't seen results. And Aileen, have you had experience with people that weren't immediately seeing the results they were hoping for, and how have you addressed that?
In my own case, one of my downsides is that I forget to work on myself. But when I do, I always feel results, and I feel the energy working, I feel it moving, and I get rid of whatever is there. It corrects itself. As Richard says, though, depending on how severe the pain is or the condition, we may not be able to raise our because it's about raising vibration. We may not be able to increase our vibration beyond the level of that condition if it's a very serious condition. But usually I can take care of it. Now, I have a healing circle when we're not in lockdown, and it's a situation where practitioners or people who want to be practitioners come to practice, students come to practice, and I always get work done. So they take turns on the table, and I get my turn. Even if I say I don't need it, they say, no, you're on the table. But it's amazing when, half an hour on the table with 2 or 3 people working on me, or even one working on me, it's like having a new body. It's just every little crink and every little thing in my body just gets taken care of. But I can still do it myself, but it's so much better to have someone else working on it. And even doing distant healing will make a big difference for him if he's interested in that.
Mm-hmm. So some suggestions here for Dave, as far as not seeing the results, maybe try trading sessions with a friend, or having a practitioner do distant healing, or seeing a practitioner. So sometimes I feel like another person's frequency can help, a person working on you can help. Because sometimes if you're doing energy on yourself, it's like you're used to your own frequency. So sometimes I feel like you need maybe a different frequency to help resolve something. So those are a few things I would try. I always recommend people trading sessions with friends if budget is a constraint. So both people take the workshop and then trade sessions for a while. So those are some of my recommendations. Another thing that I have noticed with people saying that they don't see results is, and maybe you've experienced this, Aileen, is they need to do the self-created health work, because sometimes these things are locked in with an emotion that never got resolved. Mm-hmm. I've been noticing that more and more in my life. I guess to me, like, the energy work has done a lot, and then there's these things that haven't been resolved that I'm working on, and they seem to be stuck with certain emotional energies. And so that's another thing to explore if you've been doing a lot of different things and not seeing results. So looking into the self-created health work, or a lot of the times the emotions you feel about the condition may be clues into what emotions you are left unprocessed. So if you're feeling like angry or frustrated, those may be clues into what you need to do and release. A lot of times understanding when the condition started, maybe that's a real big insight for me. If the condition started and I recognize certain emotions that were going on at that time, then I have some clues into perhaps what didn't get fully processed and released. So that's another recommendation if you're feeling stuck on that. And Aileen, do you have anything to add about that? We have a couple minutes before our next break. So if you have anything to add.
Okay, well, something I have suggested to clients is if I worked on them and the condition improved, or a student who says they couldn't shift something, I say, you pretend you're using my hands, like do paddle caking, hand stacking, even if you don't have me there. Said, you have my permission to pretend my hands are there, so you have a second set of hands. That may sound a little silly, but it does work, because it's just it's energy. So if we're working with, we're putting two sets of hands there, which are more than twice as much energy, it can really help. It can really make a difference.
Well, that's a good suggestion too. I never thought about that. Yeah, the great thing about energy is once you get started, you can continue to invent ideas, right? Like invent new techniques, and there's no real right or wrong to it. That's the fun part for me, is that when you're working with energy, it just do what feels good with it. And I wanted to circle back around to the first question, unable to feel energy. It took me about a year of consistent work with the energy to be able to feel anything at all. So my advice there is don't give up, and keep exploring the energy. I did a lot of balls of chi, just creating a ball of chi and seeing if I could feel the energy field. And it was a lot of practice. For whatever reason, I had trouble feeling it for at least, I think, about a year. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and take our next break, and then we'll be back. We'll continue to address Dave's questions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call into the show. And thank you so much, and we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. And today we have on the show our guest, Aileen McKenna. She's been an instructor in Canada since 2004. And before we went on break, we were answering one of our listeners' questions. And he's sent me some questions to answer. And the third one that I wanted to respond to is, he said, I've tried to dispel my dog Henry's rain and thunderstorm noise phobias without success so far. So let me just repeat that. He said, I've tried to dispel my dog Henry's rain and thunderstorm and noise phobias without success. So Aileen, have you had any experience with working with animals and like noise sensitivities?
Well, I had a dog for many years, and she loved quantum touch. And I don't know specifically about working with fears, but I certainly know that she loved the energy, and she lived to be 15. She was a big dog. And she was very healthy. So I'm assuming that just being in the energy all the time made her a healthy, happy dog. And she did not like thunderstorms. Like, she would try to hide, but she wasn't terrified of it. She just, she didn't like it. But yeah, I think just working with them, or having them affected by the energy. She knew when I touched her that stuff happened.
Yeah, I used to do some sessions on animals. And so like I worked on a dog once that actually came up to me and asked me for energy, because they love energy, right? So they'll ask, and they position their body. So if you have your hands out, they'll just scoot up and position their body to the right position until your hands are at the right place, because they know. And then I sat there with my hands working on them with the energy, and they stayed there for about 30 minutes, and then they wandered off because they were done. Anyways, my feeling on working with animals is that if they have phobias, doing the energy healing, if possible, during the actual event that they're afraid of, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Just some thoughts. I'm not an expert though. But my solution is continue to send them love and ask for your intuitive guidance about what would be the next step with your animal friend. I've used that a lot, just asking the universe, how can I resolve this, or what's the next step, or what do I need to learn? And a lot of times I'll get my intuition will guide me to a certain direction. Maybe you might be guided to work with a certain trainer, or I just feel like the guidance is there for you. And so thank you, Dave, for calling in with your questions. Those are really great questions. And we have another one here. Jody on the Facebook page asked if the course is offered virtually. And yes, at this time, we offer both in-person and virtual, and we're doing mostly virtual right now because of COVID. And I apologize, our schedule is a little confusing right now, which we're fixing, in that you have to search for the virtual workshop separately than the actual in-person workshops. So we'll be fixing that. So if you have any questions finding a virtual workshop, you can just email us, mail@quantumtouch.com, and I can point you in the right way of finding the virtual workshops. So that's a great question. Another question from Christina is, can Quantum Touch make health for cornea? So can Quantum Touch improve the health of your cornea? And I'd like Aileen, have you had experience with that, or clients with eye issues?
Yes, I have. I have been working with a client who he did not have a diagnosis, but he was having trouble seeing. In fact, he was afraid he was going to have to quit driving and not be able to work anymore. And I started working with him, and his sight started improving right away. And he had a place where, you know, you get off by table, and that the table is near a door to outside, and he had a place where he would look, you know, before he get on the table, and then when he get off the table to check the level of improvement. And like his sight has improved. Like he said, it's almost 20/20 now.
That's amazing. And I have a story around this too with vision and eyes. I do energy work on my eyes a lot because I just turned 50, and I noticed that my close-up vision was starting to get a little bit challenging. And so I've been working on both my eyes and the liver, which I think the meridian lines for vision run through the liver. And I've been able to, like, anytime the cell phone gets a little blurry after some energy work on the eyes, I've been able to avoid reading glasses. So I think eyes can be super responsive to energy, like everything. So the answer is yes, I believe Quantum Touch can improve the health of your corneas as well as anything. So yeah, thanks for asking the question. Yeah, so Aileen, can you tell us a little more about teaching Quantum Touch? Because we have a few more minutes left, and love to hear your experience teaching. I
love teaching Quantum Touch. And I think the most exciting part of it is when people, you know, the first thing they do together, like when they measure each other's hips, and then they do the breathing, and they start to feel, actually the first thing is when they start to feel the breath affecting the energy in their bodies. And then when we're doing the hands-on sessions, and we're measuring the hips, you know, the very first thing we're doing, and they feel things happening already, you know, and then we're practicing the breathing. It's like a whole new world has opened up for them, a world that they didn't know anything about before. So, and then that's the first 50, first couple of hours of the workshop. And I said, like, you've got another whole day and a half. And they're so astonished at that first session and what transpires in there. I mean, people's bodies change in that first part of the workshop. So like it just, like I say, it just gets better and better. And it's very empowering for people. It's self-empowering. They realize that they can do so many things on their own bodies with this tool. And they can help other people, of course. But it's the idea that they can actually help themselves is the biggest. I find that's the biggest part of it, the biggest, big wow. And I've taught I had a boy 11 in a class, and I've had a couple of women over 80 in the class, and everybody can learn just as well as anyone else. The kids love it because they feel it's sort of magical that they can actually learn to do this. And the kids don't have any of the preconceived ideas about it. The kids don't have any blockages about it. The kids just love it. And I think kids, like, we were always all meant to do this, I believe. But the kids don't have anything that says they can't. They just open up and say, let's try this, and can I do this? And yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I love that. I think what I love about Quantum Touch is that it's very empowering for people. They realize that they have this new skill that they can do to help themselves and others, and it works with energy, and it's something that's really accessible and easy to work with. And it's just really, I loved being able to feel more empowered with my health and my life even. I use the energy now for manifestation. I use it for my eyes. I use it for all these different things, and I love it. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your enthusiasm and wisdom. And I really appreciate all your work with Quantum Touch. That's 17 years, if I did the math correctly, that you've been working with Quantum Touch. And Aileen, she posts all the time on our Facebook group page, sharing her inspiring stories and her work with clients. So, and thank you everyone for tuning into the show. If you need to find out more about Quantum Touch, you can go to www.quantumtouch.com. And thank you everyone for your questions, and we will see you all next week.
You've been listening to Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life with Jennifer Noel Taylor. Tune in on transformationtalkradio.com as you take a quantum journey and tap into universal healing quantum touch principles to create an amazing supercharged life. For more information about Quantum Touch, visit quantumtouch.com, and remember, accelerate, revitalize, and engage in your supercharged life.